Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down my top 5 best bets for Wild Card Weekend, going in depth through each and every single pick and explaining why I believe you guys should be not just running over to your sportsbook to place for the games that are on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video and you love fantasy football content, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you some money. Whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you would like to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into my top 5 best bets for Wild Card Weekend of the 2024/2025 NFL playoffs. We begin with my number 1 bet for Wild Card Weekend, and that is going to be Jalen McMillan over 52.5 receiving yards on the Tampa Bay Bucks, going up against the Washington Commanders at home in Tampa Bay. This bet is currently set at -120 on DraftKings. If you use a different sportsbook, then the odds are going to be slightly different. In some cases, there might be a drastic difference in terms of the price on the bet. So Jalen McMillan over 52.5 yards, right? Anyone that isn't living under a rock, shout out Patrick Starr, would realize that Jalen McMillan has been playing incredibly well over the last couple of games. Over his last 5 games, he has went over the 52.5 receiving yards number in 4 of 5 games. This game on paper should be a very high scoring matchup, as it does have the highest total on the week, and McMillan is the clear number 2 wide receiver on this offense. Early on in the season, even early on into Chris Godwin's absence from the team after he ended up getting hurt, it really seemed like Jalen McMillan wasn't going to be able to firmly grasp the wide receiver 2 role, right? He was getting the targets, but nothing was coming of it, right? He had butterfingers, he couldn't catch the ball, and even with a increase in targets, he wasn't doing anything. But at this point in the season, now in the playoffs, to me, it is abundantly clear that he is the wide receiver 2 on this team. And if Mike Evans does end up on the struggle bus in this game, it would not surprise me if Jalen McMillan ended up out-targeting him in this game. 5 or more targets in 5 straight games. So I feel incredibly confident in McMillan in a smash spot here. And honestly, while it's not going to be one of my best bets for the week, if you wanted to sprinkle on Jalen McMillan anytime touchdown, then go right ahead. He has scored a touchdown in all 5 of the last 5 games, and he has 2 games in which he scored 2 touchdowns. So Jalen McMillan is riding incredibly hot. So I definitely think you ought to be rocking with him up against a Commanders defense that is, you know how Borat says, very nice. They are the exact opposite of that. Next up, we got Puka Nacua over 88.5 receiving yards. The LA Rams versus the cold like Minnesota Vikings. Now, this game was supposed to be in LA, a home game for Puka Nacua and the Rams, but it has been moved to Arizona due to the wildfires. If you know anyone, or if you are someone that is affected by the wildfires, I am sending my love your way. That is obviously a terrible thing that happened. That sounded kind of like a infomercial. If you or someone you know has this disease, make sure you call this number, right? But genuinely, I am sorry about that. That's terrible. And it's just crazy to see, because I live on the exact opposite side of the country, right? I live on the East Coast, and just seeing all of that stuff is terrible. So I hope everything ends up okay there, even though obviously not everything is going to be okay based upon just what we've seen online. So Puka Nacua over 88.5 receiving yards. The fact that this game is in Arizona, to me, doesn't really move the needle at all. It's not like the LA Rams were gonna pack the stadium with 90% LA Rams fans, right? The game might even have favored Minnesota in terms of the fanfare at that game. Last time out up against Minnesota back in week number 8, Puka Nacua was coming off of an injury, and honestly, to me, at that time, it was like, okay, I talk about fantasy football, right? So I was thinking, you know what? If you have to play Puka Nacua, go ahead. I'm not going to sit here and bang the drum, give him the gawk gawk 9,000 special because he's missed a serious amount of time. Let's be a little bit pessimistic with discussing Puka Nacua this week. Now, I didn't tell everyone to sit him. I just said, you know what? Don't set your expectations sky high, right? Be a little bit pessimistic. Just don't go balls to the wall with saying Puka's guaranteed to smash. But that's exactly what Puka did, right? He put the Vikings defense in the figure four. He had 7 receptions on 9 targets for 106 yards. Now, we all know that just because Puka had a great game up against the Vikings, you can't just copy-paste that and assume that is exactly what is going to happen this week, because that would just make betting and talking about these games so easy if that was just going to be the case, right? But I really do not believe that the Vikings defense has an answer for this guy. Last time, 7 receptions on 9 targets for 106 yards. And with Cooper Kupp ice cold, right? He is colder than the Ice Age. Shout out to Manny the Mammoth out there. Shout out to Sid the Sloth. The door is wide open for a smash spot for Puka Nacua, especially with the expectation that this is going to be a high-scoring game, tied for the 2nd highest total on the week. And if Sam Darnold doesn't play like Stevie Wonder like he did last week up against the Lions, this could be a real toe-to-toe back-and-forth game, or even a game where the Rams are trailing. The Rams are down. Sam Darnold is laying haymakers 12-6 elbows down, and they're going to have to pass the ball from behind. 3 of the last 4 games, Puka has put up over 88.5 receiving yards, so I love Puka Nacua because he makes me happy in this game. Shout out to Simple Jack. Now we move on into the 3rd best bet of the week, and that is going to be Zach Ertz over 38.5 receiving yards. The Bucks versus the Commanders. This is minus 115 on DK. I don't remember if I mentioned, but Puka over 88.5 receiving yards is set at minus 130. If you parlay all of these together, it would be over plus 1,000. I already placed that. So Zach Ertz over 38.5 receiving yards. Now, Zach Ertz has been hotter than Derek Lewis's balls over the last 2 games. Pause. Everyone knows that famous clip, or at least anyone that watched that UFC card. I think basically everyone that likes fighting was watching Khabib versus Conor McGregor all those years ago. Derek Lewis gets the knockout, drops his pants. Why'd you drop your pants? Because my balls was hot. And Zach Ertz has been muy caliente over the last 2 games. Back-to-back Michael Jordan 96-97 with over 38.5 receiving yards and 3 total touchdowns in that stretch. Now, if you followed Zach Ertz's season as a whole, it was a big roller coaster ride. This wasn't just like a very reliable year out of Zach Ertz. If you had him in fantasy, you play him one week, the guy's beating the ever-living shit out of the defense. You play him the next week, and he scores 2 fantasy points, right? A real roller coaster ride, very high highs, very low lows. But again, we talked about this matchup earlier when breaking down Jalen McMillan's yards prop. And if you skip straight here, or you skip past that, the Cliff Notes version would be that this is going to be a very high scoring game, and that should be able to lead to a ton of passing volume out of both offenses. Now, I say this a lot when we talk about fantasy, right? When a guy is on fire, when a guy is playing this well, you want to ride the wave. Now, of course, you can get burnt. Of course, you might not end up riding the train. You should have maybe hopped off instead of riding, pause, and you just get fucked over, right? That can obviously happen. But with Ertz dominating 50 Shades of Grey style in both of those games, I do think he should be able to squeak his way past the 39-yard mark. At number 4, we got Josh Allen, quarterback of the No One Circles the Wagons, like the Buffalo Bills, going up against the Denver Broncos this week at home in Buffalo. And we're taking Josh Allen anytime touchdown, minus 125. If you are new to sports betting, anytime touchdown means a rushing or receiving touchdown for a quarterback. It's basically guaranteed to be a rushing touchdown, but Josh Allen threw the ball to himself earlier on in the season, so he didn't technically throw the ball to himself, right, because he threw the ball and it was laddered to him, but you get what I mean, right? That did happen this season, so I guess that's a possibility, but, when you're taking this, you're looking for Josh Allen rushing touchdown, minus 125 on DK. Before we talk about Josh Allen, though, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our partner over at Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog and sign up using the link in the video description or by using promo code Notorious, you will get a free pick plus a first-time deposit bonus of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So you sign up using promo code Notorious, your free pick is going to be Justin Herbert, higher than half a total yard. You match that with any other player playing on wildcard weekend, not on the Chargers, and if both of your picks hit, you will receive around 3 times what you put in your pick. If you do multiple other picks, then they all have to hit, but the payout will be higher. Again, if you're new to Underdog, sign up using promo code Notorious. Get your free pick, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So when it comes to Josh Allen, he played last week in the Patriots game, but to say he played is, kind of it's an overstatement. I guess, people say understatements. This is an overstatement. It's an exaggeration. He played, but it was for half of a second to continue his consecutive start streak up against the Patriots before the team handed the keys to Kiss and Titties Mitchell Trubisky, who ultimately got benched later on in the game for Mike White to close the game out. The Bills lost that game, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean anything because no one was playing, just like you'd say the same thing about the Chiefs going up against the Broncos, right? Prior to last week, Josh Allen had at least one rushing touchdown in 6 of the last 7 games. I get that this is a team that isn't just devoid of running back talent, right? This isn't a team where you think of the running backs and you're like, all right, those guys really aren't all that good, right? James Cook had a phenomenal season. The guy loves the end zone. Ray Davis, sure, it's his rookie season, but he's a bigger body guy. You could see him score a touchdown. Ty Johnson, sure, he is more of the third down pass catching back, but they have solid running backs. But in my opinion, you can basically pencil in that if they get to the goal line, well, it's not going to be some tush-push fugaz touchdown like you get out of Jalen Hurts. This is going to be a big boy touchdown. What I mean by that is he might truck some motherfucker over. He might jump over the offensive line, do a fucking 360 spin move, and, torpedo maneuver through the air and score a touchdown. Now, personally, I hope as a Dolphins fan, rocking my hat, got Dolphins in the background, Dan Marino in the background, I hope that the Broncos win this game, but we all know what's going to happen, right? The Bills are big favorites. They're big. They're favored bigly in this game by 8.5 points. He is going to get his fair share of opportunities to punch the ball into the end zone, and with the odds being minus 125, I feel very good scooping that up. Final best bet of Wild Card Weekend is going to be Derrick Henry, Tractor Cito, over 98.5 rushing yards. The Ravens going up against the Steelers at home in Baltimore, minus 115 on DK. Now, betting on any player prop that is close to 100 yards might make you feel a little bit queasy, right? It might make you feel a little bit gross, and you might have to, bite the pillow when you do it. Shout out Len of the Plug. And frankly, I get that. But, and this is a big but, shout out to Angela White, when it comes to Derrick Henry, it feels a whole lot better than it would with some other player, right? When you're taking over close to 100 yards, right? Now, Derrick Henry has played up against the Steelers twice this season. Back in Week 11 was their first meeting in Pittsburgh. The Ravens lost, and Henry shit the bed with just 65 rushing yards. But the second time they played in Baltimore, which is where this game is taking place in Week 16, he had 24 carries for 162 yards. The Baltimore Ravens are big favorites in this game, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion, look DOA, dead on arrival. Now, when it comes to division rivalry games, I don't think you can just say with 100% certainty that the Pittsburgh Steelers can't figure it out and make this a close game, right? While I think most people believe the Ravens are going to win, maybe the Steelers are able to cover the spread, right? And that's why we're not talking about the spread in this video, right? I don't think the spread heavily entices me. While this could be a Ravens SmackDown Brother WWE style, I think this could end up being a close game, but I think the Ravens are going to be in control. When the Ravens are in control, they're going to churn the clock. They don't have Zay Flowers. How do you churn the clock? You give it to Derrick Henry. You give it to Derrick Henry 1 gazillion times. Last time up against the Steelers, he had 24 carries for 162 yards, and now he has had 3 straight games with over 135 yards. Even with this matchup not being the best on paper, right? This isn't a matchup to write home about going up against the Steelers, but I do really believe that Derrick Henry gets it done this week and gets 99 plus yards. Thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did enjoying, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. Check out my playoff predictions. They should be on the screen right now. We're going to talk about every single matchup through the Super Bowl, who I believe is going to end up winning the Super Bowl. Let me know your best bet down below. I love you guys more than you will ever know. I hope you have a great one. And as always, good boy!